Hi, friends. Good evening and Happy New Year. It's Marvelous Monday, which I'm super excited about. All right. So today I am going to be showing you how to make this really beautiful card. What did I do with it? Oh, here we go. And I'm going to show you how to watercolor with the stamps. So I did very little brush work at all. Most of this is the work of the stamp set. So, but before I go there, let me just explain a little bit about what's coming up. I've talked about this beautiful painted lavender and perennial postage. These bundles are part of the um, perennial lavender suite collection that is coming up in the new mini catalog. There's so many really great sets in here, but this one I was super excited about. And I decided that rather than doing something for Valentine's in January, I want to do something with this beautiful set because I was so excited to start using it. And one of the promotions that the celebration catalog, which starts January 4th as well, is if you want to join Stampin' Up, you can join and get this beautiful um, glass. I want to say it's like probably Pyrex kind of glass mat, and it comes with this little rubber workstation and a chamois. So the chamois can easily wash off your stamps, or you can use, the scrubbers that they still sell. But this is just a great way to wipe off your workstation, and so I think it works really well. So we're going to use this today because it's just such an easy way to clean up. I've been using the paper for such a long time, but I'm finding that this is a great way to conserve, having to use paper, and it washes up really nicely as well. Okay, so let's get started. Before we get very far along, I just wanted to show you what I'm doing my upcoming class. So as you know, I have a class every month. I didn't have one in January or December because there was just so much going on and we had to prepare for family. But this month I am using this suite, and I'm not positive that these are going to be the 4 projects, but this is one of the cards. This I cased out of the catalog because I thought it was so cute. It has the little lavender in it. I added a little honey lavender stress relief. It's chamomile and lavender tea bag. So it's great for Mother's Day, or you can just like get well. And let's see, then there is, I accidentally missed one. Okay, so there's this one, which this is a gatefold card, and I have 2 of them shown here because if you turn this paper over, it becomes this one. And so it's just a little simple fun fold that we're doing. And then this is the one that I showed you that comes from all the different layers of that one sheet. So I showed that the other day in one of my Facebook Lives as well. So, okay. Right. So what you're going to need is you're going to need Lost Lagoon stamp pad, the Gorgeous Grape, Highland Heather, and Blueberry Bushel. And we're not going to use much of that. You're going to want your water painters and a spritz, um, one of the Stampin' Spritzers as well. And you're going to be using the Fluid 100 paper. So the Fluid 100 paper comes 5x7. And what I've done is I've cut one in half and made it 3.5 by 4 3/4. And that way it fits perfectly on an A2 card. And as you can see, I've got these other layers that I'm going to be doing as well. Okay, So this is the watercolor paper. Hey, Arlene, thanks for joining me. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to wet my cardstock, the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And if you get too much water in places, you can use the chamois. And I'm going to spray both sides because that way it won't cup as I'm working with it. And I want this surface to be really wet. Okay. And then I'm going to just spread out the water a little bit. I am using a little jar of water to help me paint or color, clean off my brush in between. So, okay. So the first one I'm going to use is the blueberry bushel. And as you can see, I have a little bit of ink here. And if you aren't into messing up the top part of your stamp pad, you can add a couple of drops of, or just even a single drop, because this ink goes really a long ways. But you can also just touch the pad. And I don't want a lot of color, I just want a little bit. And I'm just going to go across. And actually, I want to get a little bit of the ink off of here. And I started at the top because that's where I wanted the darkest, and then I just continue to add the color down. So you can see that I'm doing kind of a sky there. All right. So I want to make sure there's no more blue on here because I'm going to go with the next color. So this was Blueberry Bushel. So the next one I want is Lost Lagoon. And this is going to be down where the foliage and leaves is. And this time, instead of going across like I am with Sky, I'm going to go up and down. Hi, Linda. Thanks for joining me. I'm just going up and down so that I'm making lavender stalks. So this is probably the only part that's really technically watercoloring. And I don't need to do a whole lot. I just want to add a little bit of color down here. It's a background to what you're going to be doing. All right, and then I'm going to use a little bit of the Highland Heather. And again, I'm going to be just going up and down so that the background of this looks like just a continuation of the lavender. And it can go up into the sky. So if you blur your eyes a little bit, you see that it looks like the lavender. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just tap this just a little bit because I'm going to be stamping now. And I don't necessarily want there to be too much water, but I do want it to be wet still, and I'll show you why. Okay. So this is the exciting part. So we're going to go back to the Lost Lagoon. And I'm using these Painted Lavender stamp sets. So I'm going to be using this stock, the flowers here, these flowers here, and I'm going to be using the little butterfly. Okay, so starting with the stock. Just going at different layers so that it's not all same. And you can also stamp twice, okay? All right, so that one is done. And then I'm going to start adding, I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to start adding the flowers. Now there's two flowers that come that we want. So I'm going to do the lighter color with this one, which is the Highland Lavender or the Highland Heather. And then I'm going to be using Gorgeous Grape on this one with more intricate details. Okay. Because the lavender, if you look at it, it really isn't just one color, it's multiple colors. And I think this just gives it a really beautiful look. Okay. All right, so I think I probably took away a little too much water there. I do want it to kind of blur a little bit, and it's never too late. Beautiful. Just a little bit. And I'm going to put some down here. It's blurring beautifully and it's so exciting. Okay. All right, now we're going to do the gorgeous grape. And what you'll find is when you're making this card, there's no two that are going to be exactly the same. So, so this is the one that has a little bit more intricate detail, and I'm going to be putting it over the center of the same flower. And I think that's probably plenty. Okay. And then I have, this is one of the dies. Oops, before I go there, I have one more stamp that I need to be using, or two more actually. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Gorgeous Grape again, and I'm going to be adding the butterfly. Looks like they're flitting around a little bit. And then I do need to add some of these bigger leaves. Okay. And you'll find that over time, this is going to just continue to blend a little bit and make it look like you watercolored it yourself. So it's just really, really beautiful. I added probably a little bit more than I did last time, but you can see that it's still super really, I mean, just really pretty. It's just such a lovely look. And when people see the card and just see that it's got the soft colors to it, it just ends up being really beautiful. I don't know why I don't remember to use my chamois, but anyway, okay. So I die cut one of the dies from the Painted Lavender has these little stalks. And so what I'm going to do, this is watercolor paper that I used. And as you can see on the card, I just added one stalk. So you can see this. Let me get this in the right direction. Yeah, it would be pretty framed. I was thinking about doing one the 5x7, and I think that would make a really pretty framed piece of art. So this is to add a sentiment, and I added a little bit of ribbon, but I'm going to watercolor this real quick. So using this smaller water painter, I need to add a little bit more of, I think I added, let's see, can I find, oh, here it is. All right, a little bit more Highland Heather, which almost looks like the fresh freesia when you just add a little bit of color to it. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the Gorgeous Grape to the middle of each one of the flowers. Okay. And then for the stalk, I'm just going to add a little bit more of this Lost Lagoon. And I'm just going to set it aside to dry while I'm working on the rest of the card. Okay, so for the card base, I just used a basic white cardstock, cut an 11.5 or 8.5 by 11 in half, and then scored it at 4 1/4. Oh, thank you, Linda. It is actually really pretty and really easy. And you know how to get a hold of me if you ever want a one-on-one training. But I'll put this on YouTube as well so you can go over at a later time. Okay, so we're going to glue these layers on, and this is the Lost Lagoon cardstock, one of the new basic colors, which I'm super excited about because it's a really beautiful blue green, and it works so well with lavender because you find that when you're looking at the lavender in your garden, it does kind of have a smoky blue green look to it. And this is just perfect. And then I'm going to add some of the Gorgeous Grape cardstock on top. And if you want to know the sizes, this one is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And then the layer that is the Lost Lagoon, that is 5 inches by 3 3/4. And I'll put those measurements on my blog and I'll email that out. So if you want to be on my blog, you're going to need to make sure that you sign up, and it's Wild Violet's Art. Oh, Linda, yes, that'd be so much fun. I'd love to have you. Okay, so this is a little damp, and what I typically do is I will cover it with something heavy, like I've put all of my dies on a magnet, and so it's got some nice weight to it, and I'll lay it on top of it and let it just dry for a couple of hours so that it doesn't curl up. But I'm going to just show you what I did after it was dry. I use my fingernail and I'm going to distress the edges. And when it's damp, it's really easy to do. So you can curl up your corners. Now I'm using my fingernail, but you can also use like your scissors edge. It works better when the cardstock is dry. When it's a little wet, it wants to kind of just, it's a little bit too loose. But anyway, you can also do it afterwards when you have it on. And then I pop this with dimensionals on top of the card so that it sits up. So when you're looking at the card, you can see that I put dimensionals underneath it just to add a little 3D. Okay, so I have a stalk that I had die cut out and then hand painted with watercoloring. And then I had a little piece of cardstock for the sentiment. And it looks like I didn't leave a piece out. Okay, so I'm using the sentiment from the perennial postage, and you mean the world to me. And I'm using the Lost Lagoon again. And then I'm using one of the perennial postage dies. And I want to say that it's second to the smallest rectangle. It probably would fit better with the next bigger size, but I really did not want to cover up the watercoloring, and I think it just takes up too much of it. So this ends up making it just really pretty and gentle. So let me just die cut this out real quick. I hope you guys had a great New Year's. We had a restful time. My husband has been a little under the weather. So he and I played games together, and which worked out. Just resting and enjoying our time. We don't get to do that very often. Okay, so because this is wet, I'm not going to assemble this. But what I did is I added a couple of strips of the glue or the stamp and seal. And then I just took a little bit of the ribbon and made a Z out of it in the middle. And then cut it off. And then I added some dimensional. And of course, I'm not going to assemble it just yet because it's still too damp and I don't want it to fall apart. So I'll leave the backing on the dimensionals and I'll just lay it there so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So once it's dry, then I'll put it together again. And I just want to angle this flower just a little bit off to the side. So you can see it's just really close to the original card. So that is really easy watercoloring with this beautiful printing a painted lavender stamp set. You can just tell it just took a few swipes of actually doing any brushwork. Everything else was done by the stamps themselves. So super easy. I hope you'll try it. And I would love it if you shared it with me if you had some success. So have a great day. I know tomorrow's work again. And oh, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. I hope that you have a really good rest of your evening. And if you're still working like myself, because it's a short week, your week is even better. So thanks, Harleen. Lots of love back to you guys. And I'll talk to you soon.